Welcome to Perfect-ish, where it's not about having perfect time management, but about perfecting your relationship with time. I'm your host, Callie Brigham, and every week we'll talk all things time and how to maximize it without burnout or guilt. Whether we're chatting with an expert or I'm sharing my 20 years of time management experience, you'll learn simple strategies to make every moment count. Here, it's all about getting close to perfect-ish. So let's synchronize our watches and dive in. Hi, friend. Oh my goodness. What a bonus episode I have for you today. I remember the day that I found out that my firstborn was going to be a boy. It's one of those things you can't make this up. It was my husband's birthday of all days. And we went in to find out blue or pink. And it was going to be blue. And I cried just a little bit. I'll tell you why in a minute. And this was before everybody did the big reveal things, but we got a vanilla cake, put some blue food coloring in it, invited the family out to dinner. We went to a Mexican restaurant, and we let my husband's dad, we call him G-Daddy, Chief, we let him cut the cake. And I'll never forget, our best friends are there, brother and sister-in-law, nieces, mother and father-in-law, me and Josh, and he cuts the cake. He sees the blue and he stands up in the middle of the restaurant and he fist bumps in the air and he goes, "Yes!" It's my father-in-law. I knew it was one of the happiest days of my husband's life and my father-in-law's life because the Brigham line was going to be carried on. And I knew that if it was way back in the Middle Ages and I was a queen, I would have been allowed to live because I was going to have a son. And that night, I went home and I cried a little bit because I thought, I don't know what to do with a boy. I'm a girly girl and I have girl cousins and I have all my friends are girls, of course. And what am I going to do with the boy? A little tear trickled down my eye. And I started talking to my friends who are boy moms and they're like, "Callie, you're going to love being a boy mom. It's the best." And here, I want to tell you, they were right. Because my thought is, if you think you love your husband, just wait till you meet his son. And that's who's here with me today. And in true Brigham tradition, when my kid has their birthday on a Tuesday, they get to be on an episode. Today is Braeden's 16th birthday, and he's sitting with me and with you as our special guest on the podcast. So, hey, Braeden, happy birthday.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You know, you get a distinct honor too, bud. You are the first guy to be on the podcast.
Well, thank you.
That's a pretty cool honor, right? So, anyways, it is your birthday. Happy birthday. I love you very much.
Love you too.
And we're going to have a fun conversation today. I know this isn't necessarily your thing, but at the same time, it is your thing because we're going to talk about what I hope are some important things to you. And I hope that they're also an encouragement to other people. And I was thinking about how to describe you. And then I thought, wait, why don't you describe yourself? Like, what are a couple words that you would use to describe yourself?
Well, I'd say goal-driven. I have pretty high expectations and I like to do a lot of things. And pretty chill, laid back. I like to be more introverted, unlike her.
It works though. It works for us. And I love that. You're both. You're a really beautiful combination of you have a level of excellence that you want to live up to, but you also know how to relax and be at peace and maybe be content as well at the same time. I'll never forget Braeden, and we're going to get into a couple tips and then we're going to share, just so you know, giving you a little overview. Going to give a couple tips from a 16-year-old fella, and then we are going to talk about the greatest 2 weeks of our entire life and our European adventure. So we are going to get to that. But I remember, Braeden, you were 6. You were 6 years old. So you may or may not remember this. And our team was going for our very first $1 million year. So it was pretty intense and we were working really hard. And our fiscal year ends on June 30th. So June is like the month, right? Where it's like all systems go. And we went out to the beach on July 1st. So you were 6, and I was there out there in the beach with you and your sister and your dad. And I looked at you and I said, Braeden, do you like it when mommy, well, I used to call myself mommy. You called me mommy. I said, do you like it when mommy works a lot or works a little? And I thought you would say you like it when mommy works a little, right? You're a kid who wants your mom around. You probably don't remember. Do you remember what you said?
No idea.
No. Okay. You looked at me and you said, I like it when mommy works a lot. I said, you do? Why? You said, because I like it when we win. And I think that's perfect for you. You are willing to work hard because you do want to win at life and at different things. So, all right, you've got a lot going on in your life. You are a scholar. So you've got school, you've got soccer, you've got mock trial that you're part of with your school. You got piano, probably much to your chagrin, but you have piano. You can be real. It's just us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a social life. So that's a lot going on. And then a lot of other things that we haven't even brought up yet. But there's a lot on your plate. How do you manage it all?
Well, I think it does take some time to get into all of it, and you have to start slow. But I think taking it one day at a time is really important. I think at the beginning of a really stressful week, that's just from me as a 16-year-old teenager, I may get stressed with some tests or exams and stuff we have in the week. But as I go from day to day, I realize the week gets easier as you just take it one day at a time and finish the things of that day. I think prioritizing the things you need to do the most and the things that are most important and the things that are least important, spend the littlest of times on. So I think that's helped me get throughout my most stressful weeks. But
Yeah. I remember it wasn't too long ago. I think you had maybe midterms or something. And I was like, hey, how's it going? And just goodness, making your list. I didn't know how you were going to do it. It was a lot. And so we sort of tapped into, I was like, oh, put me in coach, put me in coach. And we sort of tapped into some time management thoughts, which are exactly what you just said. I remember you made a list. We've done this a couple of times now, so it's almost like you know how to do it on your well, you really do know how to do it on your own. And I think you made a list, Braeden, and you had the most urgent things. And you said, okay, I'm going to do this on a Monday. I'm going to do this on Tuesday. And then the things that were sort of mid, okay, I'm not. And it was more like you weren't going to put your energy or attention to them at that time because they didn't matter as much. And then later on in the week, you were able to navigate everything else. Is that right?
yeah,
Yeah.
so.
So is there anything else that helps you when you're feeling overwhelmed? Is it just perspective or giving yourself enough time to get things done? Anything else along those lines?
I'd say maybe the achievement of the end goal being there. You're working towards something, and once you know you can get it done, you're like, let's do this, let's get this over with and see how it turns out because it's gonna be good. So yeah.
Okay. I'm going to put a pin in that. That is so good. We're going to come back to that in just a minute. Brilliant. You're a smart kid. I love that. Okay. So we've got pressure, of schoolwork and all those kinds of things. But let me tell you that there is some pressure that you put on yourself because soccer is a big part of our family. It's been a big part of our family for a long time. Not only do you play high level soccer, competitive soccer, travel soccer, all star soccer, you name it, soccer, but for crying out loud, Braeden, you're the goalkeeper. Why'd you do that to me?
I don't know.
I don't know. I tell everybody that the most stressful position on the soccer field is the goalkeeper's mom. It's not the keeper himself. So all the time you put yourself in that stressful situation. How do you handle that?
Yeah, sometimes it can be hard. I think if you just let in some goals, I think you're more blamed than the rest of the team. But you have to, if you're willing to take on that position, you have to be willing to take the blame for it. And I think it goes like in life. If you're the leader, you have to make the pressure and you have to do everything for the team. But once you realize that you're leading all these people to an end goal and they look up to you and you need to do what's right for the team. But I also think that I like the pressure and especially like a penalty or something when you don't necessarily are able to make the save, but when you do, it's really exciting and the whole team is proud of you. And I think it's a testament to pressure.
It is a testament to pressure. And your mom screams and videos and yeah. How many videos do you think, by the way, that I have of you over your soccer career?
It's gotta be like can't be like 1,000,
It
right?
might be. I don't know. It probably could. Yeah. Kind of just that's what I do on the sidelines is a video, cheer them on, and I tell the refs when they're wrong. No, you've had some amazing experiences there in goal and on the field. You're a great field player too, right winger and all that. You got an award for your school for soccer this last season. Tell everybody what award that was.
Well, I got MVP in the regional championship, but it was definitely the team performance, and I'm not gonna take all the credit for that, but yeah.
I'll give you some credit. And then your coach gave you an honorary award at your soccer party. Do you remember what award that was?
Swiss Army knife for the amount of positions I had to play because for the school, typically I play on the field, but somehow our goalie broke his back, so I had to make a mid-season change there. So yeah.
Yep, he was everywhere, all over that field. So, no, I love that. I remember actually, so our team did, by the way, hit the million that year, um, that first year. And then we went on to hit it I don't know, five more times. And one of the last times we went to Dallas and we were on the stage and I gave you the mic in front. I mean, see, this mic's no big deal. I gave you the mic in front of, I don't know, 6, 7,000 people. And that's what you said into the mic. You congratulated and commended our team. You know, you could have said a lot and you thanked me too, or you told me you're proud of me. But most importantly, you recognized the team. And that's something that I really appreciate about you is you are the ultimate team player. No matter where you're needed, you're going to step in. And the last thing I want to say is you're naturally gifted, Braeden, but I see you put in the reps. And the goalkeeper has to do that. Like you can't just go out there and wing it. You are putting in the reps. You're watching where their eyes are. You know what their body position is, where they're going to kick it, but you've done it so many times that you can walk out there with confidence and then also know that sometimes it goes your way and sometimes it doesn't. All right, so we're about to get into our most exciting part, which is our European trip. But before we do, tell us a little bit about the future. So we look back on the past, these 16 years. I have a little tear in my eye. Can't believe it. But let's look forward to the future. So where do you see yourself in 5 years, or who do you want to play for, or what do you see yourself doing?
Well, hopefully I can get some sort of scholarship to play in college and keep going in academics and hopefully I can play professionally. That's the dream, that's the goal, but we'll see where life takes me and I'm excited for anything to happen. So yeah.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun almost every day. We take some time and we look at different schools. We look at their soccer program, their academics. It's become like a family thing. And we check out their rosters and we're getting ourselves out there. So, if anybody listening, if your friend, family member, you know somebody who is a coach at a D1, D2, D3 school and they're going to need a goalkeeper, when do you graduate? 2027? Yeah. Yeah, message us. Right?
Hey.
Okay. So we talked about a minute ago prioritizing. And our podcast is about time. But the deal is, why do we even prioritize our time? Why do we time block? Why do we have a morning routine or an evening routine? At the end of the day, it comes down to making time for things that matter. And that's what you said. You said when there's an end goal in sight. So Braeden, the year was 2021, and we were right thick in the pandemic. And I was just going through the motions. I mean, I was just checking things off a list and really had no idea what the end goal was in so many different areas. I don't know if anybody felt like that during the pandemic. And I was sitting at this very desk, in this very chair, at this very computer, Braeden, and I was on a kind of January kickoff event. And in it, was reminded that I had forgotten to dream about life and what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be, and most importantly, where I wanted to spend my time. And it was kind of an emotional day as I recognized that. And I thought, what is it that I'm even working for? And I need to have a dream and I need to have a goal. And so at this computer, I thought, I don't even know where to start. And so I Googled, what are dreams for women to have? And I looked and it was like fresh flowers every day or silly things like that. I thought, no, it needs to be bigger. And all of a sudden, the thought came to me. I know from God, the thought came from me, take Braeden on a trip. And I called you in. I don't know if you remember this part, but I called you in the office. I don't know what you were doing out there. And I was like, Braeden, I have a dream. And I said, I want to take you on a trip, just the two of us. And then I said, and we can go anywhere in the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exciting.
And I think you said, well, where would we go? And I said, I don't know, let's Google it. So we Googled a bunch of stuff that day. And 2 years later, you and I got to go on the trip of a lifetime. So where did you pick?
We picked Rome and Switzerland.
We did. And now, one of the places that you did consider was going to watch Manchester United play in England, but
Dad said he would disown us.
he
So
said, he said we were not allowed. He nixed that one real quick. And so we decided we will take that off the table. Still going to happen someday, but I guess the whole family is going to go. All right. So we picked Rome and Switzerland. And I will say that I worked for the next 2 years. It took me 2 years. Worked for 2 years and worked my business, worked my time, prioritized my time, made it matter, made it important to me. You were encouraging. Remember you wrote thank you notes to my clients, thanking them for supporting our trip. And then in the end of May in 2023, we took off, got your passport, and off we went. So let's talk just a little bit about what that was like. This was your trip, first big trip across the pond, as they say. And let's just talk about it. First of all, what were you like? What were you thinking about being able to go on such an epic trip?
yeah, I was really excited. I didn't really know what to think. I mean, it was a lot to take in, and I was ready for a new experience and just really excited again.
Yeah. And so we just did carry-ons. Like that was impressive. For 2 weeks, we had just carry-ons and a little duffel bag, and off we went. So our first spot for a week was Rome. Do you have any favorites or highlights? Let's tell everybody a little bit about what we liked there.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things that we did was just see all the history that I was able to learn about in school. We saw the Forum ruins, and the Colosseum, which was an amazing experience. And we saw where the gladiators were stored underneath everything, and the stands and all the bricks that were used to build it. And I think just a lot of that history was really cool to see. And we also did this cooking class where we learned to make tiramisu and a bunch of ravioli and spaghetti and all that's Italian gourmet. And yeah,
Yeah. I think it was really neat too. I had been to Rome before. Your dad and I honeymooned there, which was kind of cool to go back with you. And my parents actually were already over in Europe. So they did hijack our trip for a couple days. Yeah, they kind of, but that was okay. We let them. But they were there for a couple days, and it was really neat too. You go to a classical school and you learn Latin. How many years of Latin do you take?
like 7 or 8,
Yeah,
something crazy.
a lot of years of Latin. And so we had this guide taking us through the Forum and the Colosseum, and she would ask questions. And first of all, you knew all the questions about the gods and the goddesses and the emperors and everything. And then there was a sign on one of the ruins, and it was in Latin. And she asked if anybody wanted to say what it was. And you just spouted it off in Latin perfectly because, like, the V's or W, how does that work? How they pronounced? V's or
Yeah, the
W's?
V's are pronounced kind of like W's, but they're also written like U or
Yeah.
some.
It's
It's something
confusing.
crazy.
It's confusing. And she just stopped, remember? And she was like, I've never had anybody say it right. I was like, all right, that classical education's paying off. So we did that. And yeah, that cooking class, you know, there was a couple things we didn't get to see. Like, we didn't make it to the Vatican. But as we were planning our trip, do you remember? We decided we were going to have one major thing a day. And then we gave ourselves time to, like, just wander and see what would happen. It's my favorite way to travel. Just a little travel tip is to pick one big thing a day. Everybody tries to squeeze everything into one day, and we didn't do that, did we, Braden? We
No.
picked one big thing a day, and we also picked things that were important to us. So, yes, going to the Vatican would be super cool, and you'll go back and you'll see it. But if you like to try something like a cooking class, pick it. And that's what we did. And I think it ended up being one of our absolute favorites. So, yeah, we pick one big thing a day, and then we just let ourselves have some free time. So, was there anything else that we picked that was kind of cool?
Well, we went on this midnight tour of Rome, kind of like horror stories in the dark. And we were taken by this guide all around the streets and the alleyways, and she would tell us these crazy stories about medieval and ancient Rome and how all the kind of vulgar stuff that happened, I
Yeah.
guess.
We left my parents at that point. We were like, Mom and Dad, you got to go. We're on our own now. Nothing like a midnight tour. What was it, like the ghosts and the murderers and the, yeah, all those stories. And then we were walking back, I'll never forget. So it was late at night, and we're walking back, and the city was still super vibrant. And I don't know, it was like midnight or 1 in the morning, and we stopped and got some gelato because that was also our goal, was to have gelato every day. Every day we did. Yeah, that was a really neat little tour that we did. So, anything else before we move on to our next country? Was there anything else in Rome that we forgot to talk about?
Well, I think the Borghese Gardens was pretty cool, and we kind of got lost for a long time. But just going back to the wandering around and not having to cram everything in, we were able to see a bunch of kids on school field trips and see a bunch of kids playing soccer in the streets and the crazy balcony views and just the ducks swimming around the pond, and we were able to soak it all in because we weren't rushed.
Yeah, again, that was, I think, one of the best parts is that we were able to walk slowly through our trip, not rushed, having fun, not missing little moments. Like you said, it was really cool in that square, seeing those kids play football, right? They call it over there, playing football. And it was okay that we got lost. We had quite an adventure too that we'll save for another time. That's when we got our little string bracelets. That was kind of crazy. But yeah, I think that was our best part of Rome, was one big thing a day and then giving ourselves time just to wander and get lost. So then we were brave. And this was sort of a coming of age trip for you too, because I needed your help. And how did we get from Rome to Switzerland?
Just trains and going off the day and just getting there.
Yeah, we took probably like 3 trains or something, and we didn't know what we were doing. We don't speak the language, never done it before, but we were up for the adventure. And it was crazy because Rome was warm, hot, really, and Switzerland, not so much. So that also made packing really interesting. So do you remember when we got off the train in Switzerland? What did you think?
Yeah, the weather was definitely a change. I think it was almost raining at the time, and we had just come from like no rain and hot beating sun down on us. But it was definitely a nice change. It was cool, and we could see a bunch of snowy mountains, which I've never seen before. We're used to the flat plains, beaches, and so it was a nice change.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty awe-inspiring when we got off that train, and the Swiss trains also are very much on time. So we got off that train and boom, right in our face, just majestic mountains. So we spent the next week, we went on it with a touring company called Backroads, highly recommend. And we spent the next week doing everything outdoorsy that we could. So, any highlights from Switzerland?
Yeah, definitely the views and just again soaking it all in. The mountains were just beautiful and the lakes were crystal blue, and I actually took on an art project in school painting the mountains. It was definitely hard and it wasn't the greatest thing, but it just brought me back to what I guess miss, and I wish I could go back and I hope I do. But definitely the views, and I think talking with the tour guides and hearing their story and telling them ours was just it was a really great experience, especially on all the long hikes and the super long bike rides through the gravel mountains and just the grass, and I think that was one of my favorite parts as well.
Yeah, the tour guides are really impressive. I was reading afterwards that it's harder to become a backroads tour guide than it is to get into some of these Ivy League universities because they could do everything, couldn't they, Braden? They could fix bikes, they could hike like nobody's business, they could talk to you for hours. They were personable, they were strong, they were just really cool. We had 3 girls, and Braden, you just took off like this, like you'd done it forever. So we didn't know what we didn't know either. And when we booked the trip and we were making our selections, they said, "Do you want like a regular bike?" Or I didn't really pay attention, or an e bike. And I thought, well, like a regular bike, right? So not thinking that we were biking in the mountains. So for the most part, it was okay because we had a lot of downhill, but maybe next time we should have opted for the e-bike. What do you think about that?
Yeah, there was definitely some pretty steep hills that we were struggling to get up, but it
Yeah,
was definitely worth the exercise, I guess.
it was. And we were pretty spoiled too with this company. We would bike for maybe an hour and then we'd have a pit stop and they would have like charcuterie spread out for us in the back of a van to like stop. And there was a couple of things especially that you enjoyed eating and drinking while we were there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's this brand of like kind of sparkle, I don't know, lemonade called Ravella, and that was definitely one of my favorite drinks there. And the cheese fondue was pretty good, and that's like a dish in Switzerland that they're famous for, I guess. But it was definitely very good.
Yeah, and they even do things like dip pickled pickles and onions and all of that in the cheese, which we had never heard of, and I thought that was pretty good too. Lots of chocolate. Yeah, that Ravella. You even got some Ravella for Christmas after that because you drank a lot of Ravella on that trip. So did the other kids. There were a couple other kids in our group that were a lot of fun. So All right, so we did biking, we did some hiking. How was that for us that live on sea level?
Yeah, it was definitely a change, but worth worth it 100%. And they helped us out with some hiking sticks just in case, but
Yeah,
it
who
was
knew
definitely
hiking sticks would be so important? It was really, and then we get to the top and it was all worth it, wasn't it?
hmm
You also did get to not only see snow on the mountains from far away, but up close too.
Yeah, it was my first time seeing it, and this is kind of funny because we just had like a record snowstorm in Pensacola, like upwards of 8 inches, which is just unheard of. But it was my first time touching snow, first time seeing it, first snowball fight, etc. So it was definitely that was one of my favorite experiences.
Yeah, it was great. We were with two other families, one from Minnesota and one from Ohio, and they could not get over that this was Braden's first time. And then one of our guides was from Germany. And so they had the time of their lives watching him check out snow for the first time. So, like Braden said, it was over century year record here on Pensacola Beach. And so we sent a bunch of the snow pictures to those same friends who were like, look at us now making snowballs on the beach. Who would have thought? So yeah, so hiking, biking. I do remember one of our last things we did there was we kayaked. And so it was funny because you and I were like, hey, let's go, man. Like the hiking and biking, we live where it's flat, but we know water. So they were pretty impressed with our kayaking skills. We finally felt like there was something we could do. Any other fun or funny or cool moments from that part of our trip?
Well, there was this one time where we were at the top of this mountain, and somehow the guides had got us going down these scooter type things, which were called Trotti bikes. And there's a few funny clips on YouTube of people failing, which we were like dying of laughter in the hotel afterward. But basically, what happened is that there's these super steep mountains and a scooter that the brakes are super sensitive, and
And like front
so
brakes only, too,
yeah,
right?
front brakes only. So couple times I pressed them too hard and got sent almost flying off of a mountain. There are people crashing everywhere around us, people flying through like over fences into trees, and it was just like almost we were scared for our lives for a second. And then our guides were just doing tricks on them right in front of us, but it was definitely crazy.
We should have known when we had to sign a waiver that may and have helmets that maybe this was not going to be as easy as we thought. Yeah, there were literally people like flying off through barricades off the side of the mountain. I cannot believe they let people do it. And Braden was in front of me, and one of the first times he just bit it and just went flying in the air. But he's a goalkeeper and he knows how to fall. So I saw him roll, hop back up. He's like, I'm good. I'm good. Oh my gosh. It was fun and absolutely terrifying at the same time. And yeah, that night we're like, there's got to be somebody who had a GoPro on and had a trotty bike fail. So I will say there's a little bit of language if you find it, but I don't think I've ever heard you laugh harder in my entire life.
It was absolutely
It
hilarious.
was awesome. And I'm like, you got to keep it down. There's other people in the hotel. So these are the moments, I'm telling you, these are the moments right here. Okay. Anything else about Switzerland that we love or want to share?
Well, probably on one of our last days there, we kind of were exploring Zurich, which is where I got this hoodie from. But anyways, we went to the FIFA World Football um, Museum, soccer museum, and there were a bunch of interactive things that and like games we could play and a bunch of history that we could learn about, and it was really informative and really fun, and it was definitely a great way to end off the trip.
All right. And you got to brag on yourself because all the interactive games, they keep score for all around the world. And I mean, I did them and it was fine, but you more than just did them. How'd you do?
Yeah, I think I got like top 10 of all time or
Yeah.
something crazy like that. But
See, college scouts, call us. This kid's good. No, it was really cool. We after that, it was the 100th year anniversary of the National Museum of Switzerland. So we're like, okay, we can book it over there real quick because it was free. So we just spent time at the FIFA Museum, which even if you're not a soccer or football fan, literally one of the greatest museums I've ever been to. So we go into the National Museum of Switzerland, and I don't know, how long did we walk around for?
maybe like 10,
10,
15
15
minutes.
minutes. And I mean, it's a huge, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 story building. And I looked at Braden, I was like, do you want to keep going? And he was like, no, do you? And I was like, why is this museum so boring? Do you remember what you said? You're like,
Uh,
because Switzerland never does anything. They're peaceful. They don't go to war. So what else do you have in a museum? Money, watches,
yeah, chocolate.
chocolate. Yeah. So we decided to book it out of there. And I think we just found something to eat. But such a cool 2 weeks. Seriously. Anything else that we forgot?
Made some good friends, I think. You already said, but we reunited with them like almost a year later, or I don't remember, maybe a
Yeah.
year later.
Yeah. About a year
At a
later.
baseball game, and it was really nice catching up and seeing them again. So even when you meet people around the world, you can still make lifelong memories. So yeah.
That's right. And I think I've made a big mistake in taking you because you have the bug now. You have the itch for it. That's not good because you're going to leave me. No, we were talking about it would be kind of cool. I think you want to do more traveling and have
Yeah,
your sights set on that, right?
for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely want to see the world.
Yeah. But you need to come back home and see your mom a lot. Braden, I want to share. This has been an awesome conversation, and I just want to share one last thing before we wrap up. A memory for me, and this was why it was worth it for me. So, setting the goal, minding my time, maximizing my time, prioritizing my time, working hard when I could, trying to balance it so that we could go for these 2 weeks. And I'll never forget, we were in the forum and we were taking our first picture there, kind of our first full day. And we're taking our picture there. And I just want you to know that as a mom, when you've got kids, whether it's a picture or another moment, you usually put your arm around them and you gather them to you. That's just kind of what you do. And I'll never forget standing there next to you and about to take the picture, and you put your arm around me and you pulled me to you. Aww. And you've done that ever since. Ever since then, every picture we've ever taken, you put your arm around me. And I tell you, bud, it is so worth it. So worth it. Thank you. Thank you for that memory. Thank you for being such a cool guy. I love you.
Love you too.
So, Braden, as we wrap up, it's been a cool conversation. Thanks for sharing this with us. Thanks for being on here with me. A couple things. One is once you achieve a goal, you got to set another one, right? We were just talking about this with our family, like setting goals and whatever. You got to set another one. So I do have another one, and the goal is to give you the most epic experience in 2026 for what's coming up in 2026.
Oh, World Cup.
World Cup.
And it's hosted in the US, so definitely want to catch some games.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. So that's my next goal, is to make sure you have a really, really awesome experience. There's games in lots of cities where we have friends, so we're going to have to figure out where we're going. But I always give our guests a bonus question. A gift, really. It's a gift. It's the gift of a bonus hour. That's what it is. So, Braden, if you had an extra hour that your mom was not nagging you about, you didn't have to like do your laundry or homework or anything like that. You could do whatever you wanted with your hour. What would you do with your bonus hour?
I'd say probably either sleep or play soccer. One of those two.
Sounds good. And I will not bug you. I will not bother you. And you know what? You've earned it. I'm going to go ahead and give that to you. You have spent this time with me. The next time you need an hour where you say, Mom, just leave me alone, I need my bonus hour, I'll do it, okay?
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. So I just want to finish by saying something that Braeden and I say to each other, and I want to tell you how it came about. So when you were much littler, and I would come and kiss you goodnight and all that, and I'd put my arm around you. And one night we were telling each other that we loved each other. And so I said that I love you. And you said you love me. And I said, I love you plus a million. And you said you loved me a million plus an inch. And I said, do you remember what I said?
Like a million plus a centimeter or something.
Yes. So I say, I love you a million. You're like, I love you a million and an inch. I said, I love you a million and a centimeter. And you stopped, you looked at me, go, that's less. I go, well, guess I love you less. So that's what we say to each other because everybody says, love you to the moon and back, love you more, love you. And Braeden and I say to each other, love you less. So love you less, Braeden. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me.
Happy 16th birthday to the coolest guy I know. Bye, everybody. Till next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Perfect-ish Time Management Podcast. Let's keep the fun going. Follow me on social and join our Facebook community. And if you're ready for some one-on-one time management coaching to reach the top of your game without burnout or guilt, I'd love to chat. Book a free interest call using the link in the show notes or send me a DM. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a 5-star review and share it with a friend who's ready to master their time too. Remember, we're in this together, making real progress towards becoming perfect-ish.